The space around the UES Liberty suddenly filled with light as dozens of massive alien ships appeared from nowhere. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the sides of his command chair as alarms screamed throughout the bridge. The human exploration vessel had just dropped out of hyperspace near the Kepler 4042 system, expecting to find empty space and a new planet to study. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by the largest alien fleet anyone had ever seen. "Report," Morrison said, his voice steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. The Liberty carried 200 souls, and now they were trapped like mice in a cage. Chief Engineer Lisa Martinez looked up from her console, her face pale. "Captain, I count 53 alien vessels. They're big, really big. The smallest one is twice our size." Tactical Officer Ryan Brooks worked frantically at his station. "Sir, they've got us boxed in completely. No escape route. Their weapons are powered up and targeting us." Communications specialist Amy Turner pressed her headset closer to her ear. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. Multiple species, but they're using standard galactic trade language." Morrison nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing 3 alien faces. The first was reptilian with cold yellow eyes and scales that gleamed like metal. The second looked like a giant insect with compound eyes that reflected the bridge lights. The third appeared to be made of living crystal, its face constantly shifting between different colors. The reptilian spoke first. "Human vessel, I am War Commander Thexval of the Saurok Empire. You have entered space controlled by the Galactic Hegemony." The insect-like alien stepped forward. "I am Admiral Kreenash of the Vectar Swarm. Your species has been observed and studied." The crystal being's voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "I am General Morden of the Shard Collective. We have reached a decision about humanity." Morrison stood up from his chair. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. We come in peace. Our mission is scientific exploration and establishing friendly contact with new civilizations." War Commander Thexval's laugh sounded like rocks grinding together. "Peace is irrelevant. Friendship is weakness. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We maintain order. We prevent chaos." Admiral Kreenash's compound eyes focused on Morrison. "Your species shows dangerous traits. You think as individuals. You question authority. You create new things without permission. This threatens the stability we have built." General Morden's crystal form pulsed with red light. "The 12 species of the hegemony live in harmony because we follow the established order. Each species has its place. Each individual knows their role. You humans refuse to accept this." Morrison felt sweat beading on his forehead. "We believe in freedom, in the right of all beings to choose their own path." "Exactly," Thexval hissed. "This is why you are dangerous. This is why you must be cleansed." Amy Turner looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting more ships arriving. The count is now over 60. Morrison's mind raced. The Liberty was alone, 3 weeks away from the nearest human outpost. No one even knew where they were. The official mission log showed them exploring a different system entirely. "What exactly are you proposing?" Morrison asked, though he already suspected the answer. Kreenash stepped closer to the screen. "Surrender your vessel immediately. Your crew will be processed and integrated into the hegemony hierarchy. Those suitable for labor will be assigned. Work details. Those unsuitable will be disposed of efficiently." "Your ship contains technology that interests us," Morden added. "We will study it, learn from it, use it to strengthen hegemony defenses." "And if we refuse?" Morrison asked. Thexval's eyes narrowed. "Then we destroy you here and now. Either way, the human contamination ends today." Morrison looked around his bridge. Lisa Martinez met his eyes and gave a small nod. Ryan Brooks cracked his knuckles and checked his weapon systems again. Amy Turner continued monitoring communications while Dr. Kevin Walsh, the ship's xenobiologist, studied the alien transmissions from his science station. I need time to consider your offer, Morrison said finally. You have 12 hours, Thexval replied. Use them wisely. They are the last 12 hours your species will ever have to make a choice. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems and the quiet beeping of various monitors. Options? Morrison asked his crew. Ryan. Brooks shook his head. We're outgunned about 30-1. Our weapons are good, but not that good. If we fight, we lose. Lisa Martinez pulled up a technical readout. The engines are running fine, but they've surrounded us completely. Even if we could break through their line, they'd catch us before we could jump to hyperspace. Amy Turner looked up from her station. I could try to send a message to Earth, but it would take weeks to reach them, and these aliens would probably detect it. Dr. Walsh spoke up from his position. Captain, I've been studying their transmission. There's something interesting about how they communicate. Morrison walked over to the science station. What do you mean? Watch their body language. Listen to how they speak. They move together. Like a machine. They finish each other's sentences. It's like they're not really individuals at all. Hive minds? Morrison asked. Not exactly. More like they've been trained to think the same way, to want the same things, to never question or disagree. Walsh paused. Captain, I don't think they understand us at all. They see our individuality as a disease because they've forgotten what it means to be different. Morrison nodded slowly. An idea was forming in his mind, but it was crazy, probably suicidal. But it might be their only chance. Lisa, I need you to run a full diagnostic on our experimental systems. Everything we're not supposed to talk about. Martinez raised an eyebrow. The classified stuff? Captain, that equipment isn't fully tested. Using it could kill us. So could surrendering, Morrison replied. Ryan, I want you to review Protocol Omega. Every detail. Brooks looked surprised. Sir, Protocol Omega is theoretical. It's never been tested outside of computer simulations. Amy, can you hide a message inside our surrender transmission? Something the aliens won't detect but Earth will understand? Turner nodded. I can try. What kind of message? Morrison looked out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere, among those stars, was Earth. Humanity's home. If the Liberty failed here, these aliens might eventually find their way to human space. They might decide that all of humanity needed to be cleansed. Tell them what happened here. Tell them we tried. And tell them to be ready. Dr. Walsh spoke up again. Captain, there's something else. I've been monitoring their fleet communications. They're not completely united. The three commanders seem to disagree about how to handle us. How so? Thexval wants to destroy us immediately. Kreenash wants to capture our technology intact. Morden seems to be the mediator between them. Morrison smiled grimly. Disagreement, conflict, individual opinions. Sounds like they're more human than they want to admit. Over the next several hours, the crew of the Liberty worked with quiet desperation. Lisa Martinez accessed systems that officially didn't exist, running diagnostics on experimental equipment that had been installed in secret before their departure. The quantum displacement drives were functioning, but barely. The adaptive armor plating was untested. The new weapon systems were based on alien technology captured in previous encounters, but no one knew if they would actually work. Ryan Brooks studied every detail of Protocol Omega, the desperate last resort strategy developed by Earth's best, military minds. It was designed for exactly this situation, a single human ship facing impossible odds with no hope of rescue. But it required using their experimental systems in ways they were never designed for. The chance of survival was less than 10%. Amy Turner worked on embedding their final message to Earth inside what would appear to be a standard surrender transmission. She used codes that only human intelligence services would recognize, hidden in seemingly random data fluctuations. Dr. Walsh continued studying the alien fleet, learning everything he could about their biology, their technology, their psychology. He discovered that the hegemony species had been modified over generations to suppress individual thought and creativity. They were efficient, but they had lost the ability to adapt quickly to new situations. As the 12-hour deadline approached, Morrison called his senior staff together in the conference room. The lighting was dim, and everyone looked tired. Outside the windows, the alien ships waited like patient predators. "We have a choice," Morrison said. "We can surrender and hope they keep their word about treating our crew well. We can try to run and probably get destroyed in the attempt. Or we can fight." "Fighting means Protocol Omega," Brooks said. "And Protocol Omega probably means we all die." "Maybe," Morrison agreed. "But if we don't try, then humanity never learns what we learned here. They never know that these aliens exist. They never get the chance to prepare." Martinez nodded slowly. "The experimental systems might work. If they do, we might actually have a chance." "I've hidden our message to Earth," Turner said. "Even if we don't survive, someone will know what happened here." Dr. Walsh looked around the table. "These aliens think they know everything about humanity. They think we're predictable. Maybe it's time to show them how wrong they are." Morrison stood up. "All in favor of implementing Protocol Omega?" Every hand. The Liberty's corridors buzzed with activity as the crew prepared for what might be their final hours. Captain Morrison walked through the ship, stopping to speak with different teams. In the engine room, Lisa Martinez had opened panels that most of the crew didn't even know existed. "Show me what we're working with," Morrison said. Martinez pointed to a series of devices that hummed with barely contained energy. "These are the quantum displacement drives. They're supposed to let us phase in and out of normal space for short periods. Think of it like becoming a ghost." "Supposed to?" "The longest test run was 30 seconds. We don't know what happens if we stay phased longer than that. The energy requirements are massive, and the stress on the hull could tear us apart." Morrison nodded. "What else?" "Adaptive armor plating. It's supposed to learn from whatever hits it and become stronger, but it needs time to adapt, and we don't know how well it works against alien weapons." She led him to another section. "And these are our new weapon systems. We built them using technology recovered from alien ships in the Outer Rim territories. They fire concentrated energy bursts that can disrupt most known shield systems." "Most known?" "We've never tested them against hegemony shields. For all we know, they might just tickle." Morrison left the engine room and found Ryan Brooks in the tactical center. The young officer had spread out holographic displays showing the alien fleet formation. "What's our situation?" Morrison asked. Brooks highlighted different sections of the enemy formation. "They've arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around us. Classic hegemony tactics. No weak points, maximum firepower coverage. But there's something interesting." He zoomed in on specific ships. "The 3 command vessels are positioned at equal distances from each other. It's like they don't quite trust each other to coordinate the attack." Dr. Walsh thinks they have disagreements about how to handle us. That makes sense. Look at this. Brooks showed Morrison the communication patterns between the alien ships. Most of their chatter is between ships of the same species. The Saurok talk to other Saurok ships. The Vector coordinate with other Vector vessels. There's very little cross-species communication. Morrison studied the display. "They're united against us, but not really united with each other." "Exactly. And if Protocol Omega works, we might be able to use that against them." In the communications center, Amy Turner was working on multiple tasks at once. She had prepared the hidden message to Earth, but she was also doing something else. "Captain, I've been analyzing their communication frequencies," she said. "Each species uses different methods. The Saurok use standard radio waves. The Vector use some kind of chemical signaling that we can detect but not decode. The Shard Collective uses light patterns. What are you thinking? If we can disrupt their communications during the battle, they'll have trouble coordinating. But more importantly, I might be able to hack into their systems." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Hack alien technology? Communication is communication. The basic principles are the same across species. If I can find their frequency patterns and figure out their protocols, I might be able to send them some surprises. In the science lab, Dr. Walsh was surrounded by data about alien biology and psychology. He looked up when Morrison entered. "Captain, I've discovered something important. These species didn't evolve to be this way. They were changed." Walsh pulled up genetic analysis charts. "Look at this. The Saurok, Vector, and Shard Collective all show signs of genetic modification. Deliberate changes to their brain structures. What kind of changes? The parts of their brains responsible for creativity, individual thinking, and emotional responses have been suppressed or removed entirely. They're still intelligent, but they can only think in predetermined patterns." Morrison stared at the data. "They made themselves into machines." "Not exactly. They're still biological, but they've eliminated the traits that made them unpredictable. The hegemony values order above everything else, so they bred the chaos out of themselves. And that's why they see us as dangerous." "Exactly. We still have all the traits they eliminated. We're creative, unpredictable, emotional. To them, we're like a virus that could infect their perfect order." Walsh showed Morrison another display. "But here's the thing. Those traits they eliminated, they were also the source of their adaptability. Without creativity, they can't adapt to truly new situations. They can only respond with predetermined tactics." Morrison felt a spark of hope. "So if we do something they've never seen before, they won't know how to respond, at least not quickly." The captain left the science lab and returned to the bridge. The alien ships continued their patient wait, like predators confident in their trap. But Morrison no longer felt helpless. His crew had shown him possibilities he hadn't imagined. "Status report," he called out. "All experimental systems are online," Martinez reported from her engineering station. "I can't promise they'll work as intended, but they're ready." "Tactical analysis complete," Brooks announced. "I've identified potential weaknesses in their formation. If we can break through at the right point, we might be able to cause confusion in their ranks." "Communications are ready," Turner said. "I've prepared several surprises for our alien friends. Scientific analysis suggests they'll have trouble adapting to unexpected tactics," Walsh added. Morrison looked around his bridge crew. These people were about to risk everything on an untested plan with almost no chance of success. But they were willing to do it because they believed in something larger than themselves. "Attention all hands," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "This is the captain. In a few minutes, we're going to attempt something that has never been tried before. We're going to show the galaxy that humanity will not go quietly into the night." He paused, looking out at the alien fleet. "The aliens surrounding us believe that order is more important than freedom. They think that conformity is more valuable than individuality. They're wrong." Throughout the ship, crew members stopped what they were doing to listen. "We are not perfect. We argue, we disagree, we make mistakes. But we also dream, we create, we adapt, we refuse to give up even when the odds are impossible." Morrison's voice grew stronger. "Today, we're going to teach the galaxy something new. We're going to show them that the human spirit cannot be contained, cannot be controlled, and cannot be defeated." He took a deep breath. "All stations, prepare for Protocol Omega." Around the ship, crew members returned to their tasks with renewed determination. In the engine room, Martinez made final adjustments to the quantum drives. In the tactical center, Brooks loaded the experimental weapons with their untested ammunition. In communications, Turner prepared to launch her electronic assault on the alien networks. The countdown began. 10 minutes until the 12-hour deadline expired. 10 minutes until the alien fleet would expect their surrender. Morrison opened a channel to the alien commanders. The three faces appeared on his screen again, as cold and confident as before. "Have you reached a decision, human?" War Commander Thexvale asked. Yes, Morrison replied. We have. Admiral Krinash leaned forward. You will surrender your vessel and submit to hegemony processing? No, Morrison said calmly. We will not. General Mordoon's crystal form shifted to a deep red color. Then, you choose destruction. This is illogical. You cannot win. Morrison smiled. You're right. We can't win, but we can do something else. What? Thexvale demanded. We can show you that there are still species in this galaxy who refuse to give up their freedom, who refuse to accept that order is more important than justice, who refuse to believe that might makes right. The three alien commanders looked at each other with what might have been confusion. They had expected fear, or anger, or desperate pleading. They hadn't expected defiance. Your words are meaningless, Krinash said. Surrender or die. These are your only choices. Morrison looked around his bridge one last time. His crew met his eyes with steady determination. They were ready. There's always a third choice, Morrison said. We choose to fight for what we believe in. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All stations, implement Protocol Omega. Show them what humanity can do. The Liberty's experimental systems came online simultaneously. Energy readings spiked throughout the ship as the quantum displacement drives prepared to activate. The adaptive armor plating began its calibration sequence. The new weapon systems charged with power derived from alien technology. Outside, the hegemony fleet detected the energy changes immediately. Alarms sounded on alien bridges as sensors reported impossible readings from the human ship. Sir, Martinez called out, quantum drives are at full power. I can maintain phase displacement for maybe 5 minutes before the hull starts to buckle. Weapons are charged and ready, Brooks reported, targeting the lead command vessels. I'm ready to begin the communication assault, Turner announced. Once I start, they'll know we're up to something. Morrison took his place in the captain's chair. Around him, his bridge crew waited for the order that would either save them or destroy them. Dr. Walsh, will this work? The scientist looked up from his console. Captain, I have no idea, but I know that whatever happens next, the galaxy will never be the same. Morrison nodded. That? Sir, Turner reported, I'm detecting communication between. The first ship to break formation was a sleek vessel with flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them. Captain Morrison watched in amazement as the ship turned its weapons away from the Liberty and toward its former allies. This is Commander Zara of the Zephyrian vessel Wind Dancer, came a voice over the communication channel. We have been waiting 300 years for someone to show us that resistance was possible. Before Morrison could respond, 2 more ships changed sides. A massive blue vessel that seemed to ripple like water through space powered down its weapons, targeting the Liberty and turned them on nearby hegemony ships. Admiral Reef Singer of the Tide Runner Deep Current joins the human cause, announced a voice that sounded like waves crashing on a shore. The hegemony forced us to dry up our oceans and cage our spirits. No longer. The third ship was unlike anything Morrison had ever seen. It appeared to be made of pure energy, constantly shifting between different shapes and colors. When it spoke, the voice sounded like a chorus of beings speaking in perfect harmony. We are bright hope of the light, shapers. We were forced to dim our radiance to serve the hegemony's order. The humans have reminded us how to shine. War Commander Thexvale's voice roared across all frequencies. Traitors! You violate 10,000 years of hegemony law! Commander Zara's response was calm but firm. Laws written by conquerors to keep the conquered in chains. We were never willing members of your hegemony. We were slaves who forgot we could break our chains. Morrison opened a channel to the 3 rebel ships. This is Captain Morrison. We welcome your help, but I need to know, can we trust you? You freed our minds from generations of conditioning, Admiral Reef Singer replied. You showed us emotions and thoughts we had forgotten existed. Trust is the least we can offer. Dr. Walsh was monitoring the neural patterns from the rebel ships. Captain, their brain activity has changed completely. The empathy bombs didn't just disrupt their conditioning, they fully restored their original emotional and creative capacities. Ryan Brooks studied his tactical display as the battle formation shifted dramatically. Sir, we now have 4 ships against the remaining 50. The odds are still terrible, but at least we're not alone. Morrison realized this was their chance to turn the tide completely. Amy, open a channel to all hegemony ships. Time to give them a choice. Turner nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. Morrison's voice reached every alien vessel in the area. Attention, hegemony fleet. You've seen what happened to your comrades. They remembered what it means to be free. They remembered what it means to choose their own path instead of following orders without question. On dozens of alien bridges, crew members who had been struggling with newfound emotions and thoughts stopped what they were doing to listen. You were not born to be slaves, Morrison continued. Your species once had art, music, literature, individual dreams and hopes. The hegemony took that away from you and told you it was for the greater good. But look around you. Is this galaxy better for your sacrifice? War Commander Thexval tried to cut off the transmission, but Amy Turner had hacked too deeply into their communication systems. Morrison's words reached every ship. You have a choice right now. You can continue fighting for an order that demands you give up everything that makes you who you are. Or you can join us in building something better. A galaxy where every species can be themselves, where creativity and individuality are celebrated, not feared. More ships began to waver. Their weapons stopped tracking the Liberty and its new allies. Crew members on hegemony vessels started talking to each other instead of simply following orders. This is chaos, General Morden transmitted, his crystal form pulsing with agitated colors. Without order, without hierarchy, there is only destruction. Commander Zara's ship moved closer to the Liberty, providing cover from still hostile vessels. General Morden, your people were artists once. You created sculptures of living light that could be seen from space. What art have you created since joining the hegemony? There was silence from Morden's ship. Admiral Reefsinger added his voice. My people sang songs that could calm the fiercest storms. We wrote poetry in the movement of tides. When did you last hear a shard collective create anything new? Bright Hope pulsed with gentle colors. We remember when your crystals told stories, with light. Each of your people was a unique beacon in the darkness. Now you all shine with the same cold glow. Morrison watched his tactical display as more ships stopped firing. The psychological battle was proving more effective than any weapon. Lisa Martinez called out from engineering. Captain, our rebel allies are sharing technical data with us. Their technology is incredible when it's not being suppressed by hegemony restrictions. What kind of data? The Zephyrians have developed energy shields that can adapt in real time. The Tide Runners have weapons that use controlled gravity waves. The Light Shapers can manipulate matter at the quantum level. Ryan Brooks was already incorporating the new technology into their battle plans. Sir, if we can coordinate our attacks with our allies, we might actually be able to win this. But Morrison was thinking beyond just winning the battle. Amy, patch me through to our allies. Private channel. When the connection was established, Morrison addressed the 3 rebel commanders. Commander Zara, Admiral Reefsinger, Bright Hope. I need to know your plans. Are you just fighting for yourselves, or are you thinking bigger? Commander Zara answered first. Captain Morrison, the hegemony has 13 member species. Only 3 of them are here by choice. The rest of us were conquered, absorbed, our cultures suppressed or destroyed. If we can break their control here, we can free the entire galaxy. The rebellion starts here, Admiral Reefsinger agreed. But it cannot end here. There are billions of beings throughout hegemony space who have forgotten what freedom feels like. Bright Hope's voice carried a note of determination. We will help you fight this battle, but afterward, We must help our people remember who they were before the hegemony made them into tools. Morrison felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. This had begun as a simple first contact mission. Now it was becoming a galactic revolution. "All right," he said. "Let's plan this together. Lisa, share our adaptive armor technology with our allies. Ryan, coordinate our weapons systems with theirs. Amy, see if you can hack more hegemony ships." Dr. Walsh was studying the ongoing effects of the empathy bombs. "Captain, the neural disruption is spreading. Ships that we haven't even targeted directly are showing signs of awakening consciousness. It's like the effect is contagious." Morrison watched as another hegemony vessel powered down its weapons, then another. The rigid formation that had trapped the Liberty was dissolving into chaos as individual crews began thinking for themselves. But War Commander Thexval wasn't giving up. His voice cut through the communication channels with desperate authority. "All loyal vessels, form up on my position. Ignore the neural contamination. Focus on the mission. The human ship must be destroyed." About half the remaining hegemony ships responded to his call, moving to create a new formation around his command vessel. The others continued to drift, their crews too confused or overwhelmed to follow orders. "He's still got about 25 ships under his direct control," Brooks reported, "and they're the hardcore loyalists. They won't be easily swayed." Commander Zara's tactical analysis appeared on Morrison's screen. "Thexval is desperate. He knows that if word of this rebellion reaches other sectors, the entire hegemony could collapse." Admiral Reef Singer added his own intelligence. "The Sauroch Empire is the backbone of hegemony military power. If Thexval fails here, his own people will question the system they've built their civilization on." Morrison realized that Thexval was more dangerous now than when he had been confident of victory. A desperate enemy might do anything to prevent defeat. "Sir," Martinez called out urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the Sauroch command ship. He's charging some kind of weapon I've never seen before." Dr. Walsh's readings confirmed Morrison's fears. "Captain, it's not a weapon. It's a ramming drive. He's going to try to ram us at full speed. At that velocity, both ships would be completely destroyed." Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew had accomplished the impossible, turning what should have been their execution into the start of a galactic rebellion. But now their enemy was willing to commit suicide just to make sure they didn't survive to see the results. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Morrison ordered. "He's coming straight for us." But Commander Zara had a different idea. "Captain Morrison, we have a better plan. Trust us." Before Morrison could ask what she meant, all three rebel ships moved to form a protective formation around the Liberty. Their combined shields created a barrier that blazed with impossible colors. Zephyrian adaptive shields, Tide Runner gravity manipulation, and Light Shaper quantum control, Bright Hope explained. "Together we are stronger than the sum of our parts." Thexval's ship slammed into the combined barrier at ramming speed. But instead of destroying the rebel ships, the collision created something unprecedented. The combined alien technologies, working in harmony instead of competition, absorbed the impact and redirected the energy. The Sauroch command ship, whoa. The alien commanders stared at their screens in disbelief. Where the human ship had been moments before, there was now empty space. Their sensors showed nothing. No energy signature, no debris, no trace that a ship had ever been there. "Impossible," War Commander Thexval hissed. "Ships do not simply vanish." Admiral Krenash's compound eyes reflected the confused lights of his bridge displays. "Our sensors detect no hyperspace jump, no wormhole formation, no stealth technology." Signature. General Mordun's crystal form flickered between different colors as he processed the impossible data. "The human vessel has somehow moved outside our understanding of physics." On the Liberty, Captain Morrison felt the ship shudder around him as the quantum displacement drives held them in the space between dimensions. The hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle. "Status report," Morrison called out. Over the noise, Lisa Martinez's voice was strained as she fought to keep the experimental system stable. "Hull stress is building rapidly. The quantum field is holding, but I don't know for how long. We're existing in a state that shouldn't be possible." Through the view screen, the crew could see the alien fleet, but everything looked strange and distorted. The ships appeared to shimmer like mirages, and their movements seemed to happen in slow motion. "Are we invisible to them?" Morrison asked. Dr. Walsh studied his readings. "More than invisible, we're existing in quantum superposition between normal, space, and subspace. To their sensors, we don't exist at all. But, Captain, the energy requirements are enormous. We can't maintain this for more than a few minutes." Ryan Brooks worked frantically at his tactical station. "Sir, I have firing solutions on all 3 command vessels. But if we fire from this position, we'll reveal ourselves." "Not yet," Morrison said. "Amy, are you ready with the communication assault?" Turner's fingers flew over her console. "Ready, Captain. I've identified their command frequencies and prepared our surprise packages." Dr. Walsh, deploy the nanobots. Walsh pressed a series of controls, and tiny devices no larger than dust particles began streaming out of the Liberty's hidden ports. The nanobots had been designed for scientific research, but Walsh had reprogrammed them for a very different purpose. "Nanobots deployed," Walsh reported. "They're spreading throughout the alien fleet. Once they reach the command ships, they'll begin interfering with their communication and targeting systems." On board the Sorok command vessel, technicians reported strange malfunctions in their systems. Targeting computers began showing false readings. Communication arrays started picking up random signals. "What is happening?" Thexval demanded. His chief technician studied the displays with growing confusion. "Sir, our systems are experiencing interference of unknown origin. It's like something is rewriting our software from the inside." Similar reports came from the Vectar and Shard collective command ships. Admiral Krenosh found his tactical displays showing conflicting information. General Mordun discovered that his ship's computers were generating error messages in languages that didn't exist. "Sir," Martinez called out from the Liberty's engine room, "hull stress is reaching critical levels. If we don't phase back into normal space soon, the ship will tear itself apart." Morrison made his decision. "Amy, begin the communication assault. Ryan, prepare to fire the moment we phase back. We're going to appear right in the middle of their formation." "Right in the middle?" Brooks asked. "Sir, that puts us in the worst possible tactical position. We'll be surrounded by all their ships." "Exactly," Morrison replied. "They'll be so surprised that they won't know how to react. And they'll risk hitting each other if they fire at us." Turner activated her communication assault just as the Liberty began to phase back into normal space. The human ship materialized directly in the center of the alien formation, close enough to the command vessels that their crews could see each other through the view screens. The effect was immediate and devastating. Instead of conventional weapons, the Liberty fired Dr. Walsh's special creation, empathy bombs. The devices weren't designed to cause physical damage. Instead, they released carefully programmed energy patterns that interfaced directly with alien neural networks. For species that had spent generations suppressing their emotions and individual thoughts, the sudden influx of human emotional experiences was overwhelming. On the Sorok command ship, War Commander Thexval suddenly found himself experiencing something he hadn't felt in decades: doubt. The cold certainty that had guided his entire military career wavered as he was bombarded with human memories of questioning authority, of choosing compassion over efficiency, of valuing individual life over strategic objectives. Admiral Krenosh staggered as his consciousness was flooded with human creativity. His mind, trained to follow predetermined patterns, struggled to process the chaotic beauty of human art, music, and literature. For the first time in his life, he found himself wondering what it would be like to create something new instead of simply following orders. General Mordun's crystal form flickered wildly as he experienced human emotions in their raw, unfiltered state. Love, fear, hope, anger, joy, sadness. All the feelings his species had eliminated centuries ago came rushing back at once. Throughout the alien fleet, similar scenes played out. Crew members who had never questioned an order in their lives suddenly found themselves asking why they were here. Warriors who had never felt empathy for their enemies began to understand the cost of their actions. But Amy Turner's communication assault was having an even more dramatic effect. She had managed to hack into the hegemony communication networks and was broadcasting human culture directly into their systems. Music flowed through their speakers. Everything from classical symphonies to rock anthems to gentle lullabies. Art filled their displays, paintings, sculptures, photographs that showed the incredible diversity of human creativity. Most shocking of all, she broadcast human literature. Stories of individuals standing up against impossible odds. Tales of people choosing love over duty, justice over order, freedom over security. The alien crews, who had been taught that such concepts were dangerous and chaotic, suddenly saw them as beautiful and inspiring. Several smaller hegemony vessels actually stopped firing. Their crews, overwhelmed by the sudden influx of human, emotional and cultural experiences, found themselves unable to continue the attack. "What have you done to us?" Thexval's voice crackled over the communication system, but his tone was different now. Instead of cold authority, there was confusion and something that might have been pain. Morrison opened a channel to all the alien ships. "We've shown you what you gave up when you chose order over freedom. We've reminded you what it means to be truly alive." On his tactical display, Brooks watched in amazement as the alien formation began to break apart. Some ships continued to fire, but their shots were wild and uncoordinated. Others had stopped moving entirely as their crews struggled with newfound emotions and ideas. "Captain," Brooks reported, "their attack pattern is completely disrupted. It's like they don't know how to function as individuals." Dr. Walsh was monitoring the effects of the empathy bombs. "The nanobots are amplifying the neural disruption. The alien crews are experiencing emotions and thoughts that their species haven't felt for generations. They don't know how to process them." But the battle was far from over. War Commander Thexval, despite his confusion, managed to regain enough composure to issue orders. "All ships, ignore the neural interference. Focus on destroying the human vessel. Use manual targeting, if necessary." Some of the alien ships responded, their weapons beginning to track the Liberty. But their movements were sluggish and uncoordinated. Crews who had operated like perfect machines now found themselves questioning every command, debating every decision. "Sir," Martinez called out, "the quantum drives are overheating. If we try to phase out again, they'll explode." "Adaptive armor is responding to incoming fire," Brooks reported, "but it needs time to learn their weapon patterns." Morrison watched as energy beams from a dozen alien ships converged on the Liberty. The adaptive armor plating absorbed the first volley, its structure shifting and changing as it analyzed the alien weapons. The second volley was less effective, and the third barely scratched the hull. "Amazing," Martinez breathed. "The armor is actually learning." But Morrison knew they couldn't rely on defense alone. "Ryan, target their command ships. Let's see how well our new weapons work." The Liberty's experimental weapons fired concentrated energy bursts based on captured alien technology. The beams sliced through hegemony shields like they weren't there, striking the command vessels with devastating effect. But instead of destroying the ships, the weapons caused something unexpected. The energy bursts interfaced with the alien technology, creating feedback loops that amplified the neural disruption from the empathy bombs. On the Sarok command ship, entire sections of the crew suddenly stopped fighting and began experiencing what could only be described as an awakening. For the first time in their lives, they were thinking as individuals rather than components of a machine. Admiral Kreenash found himself staring at a piece of human art that had appeared on his main screen, a painting of a sunset over Earth's ocean. The beauty of it brought tears to his compound eyes, tears he didn't understand but couldn't stop. In the aftermath of the battle, space around the Kepler 442 system had become something unprecedented in galactic history. 53 alien warships hung motionless in the void, but they were no longer the disciplined fleet that had arrived to destroy humanity. Instead, they had become something new, a collection of awakened beings discovering what it meant to be individuals again. Captain Morrison stood on the Liberty's bridge, watching the chaos and wonder unfolding around them. On dozens of alien ships, crew members were experiencing emotions and thoughts their species hadn't felt for generations. Some were celebrating. Others were confused or frightened. Many were simply crying, tears of joy, of loss, of relief at finally being able to feel again. "Status report," Morrison called out to his crew. Lisa Martinez looked up from her engineering console, exhaustion and amazement warring on her face. "All our experimental systems performed beyond expectations. The quantum drives held together. The adaptive armor learned to resist every weapon they threw at us, and the empathy bombs worked better than Dr. Walsh's wildest predictions." Dr. Walsh was monitoring the ongoing effects of their attack. "Captain, the neural restoration is still spreading. Even crew members who weren't directly affected by the empathy bombs are starting to show signs of individual consciousness. It's like once the process started, it became self-sustaining." Ryan Brooks had been coordinating with their new allies. "Sir, we've established full communication with all the rebel ships. Commander Zara has suggested a meeting to discuss what happens next." Amy Turner was managing communications traffic that had grown beyond anything she'd ever handled before. "Captain, I'm receiving messages from hegemony territories throughout this sector. Word of what happened here is spreading fast. Some are demanding explanations. Others are asking how they can join the rebellion." Morrison felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. When the Liberty had left Earth, their mission had been simple exploration and first contact. Now they were at the center of what could become a galactic civil war. "Patch me through to all ships in the area," Morrison said. "It's time to talk about the future." His image appeared on screens throughout the fleet. On Sauroch ships, reptilian, faces looked up with eyes that showed confusion and newfound wonder. On Vector vessels, insectoid beings tilted their heads as they experienced curiosity for the first time in centuries. On Shard collective ships, crystalline forms flickered with colors that had never been seen before. 3 hours ago, we were enemies," Morrison began. "You came here to destroy us because your leaders told you that humanity was dangerous. They were right, but not in the way they thought." He paused, looking out at the diverse collection of beings who were listening to him. "We are dangerous to systems that depend on conformity. We are dangerous to orders that demand unquestioning obedience. We are dangerous to anyone who believes that freedom and individuality are weaknesses to be eliminated." Commander Zara's ship moved closer to the Liberty. "Captain Morrison speaks the truth. My people were artists and explorers before the hegemony conquered us. They told us that our creativity was chaos, that our individualism was selfish. They made us forget who we were." Admiral Reef Singer's voice joined the conversation. "The Tide Runners were poets and philosophers. We believed that every being should flow like water, finding their own path through life. The hegemony dammed our rivers and caged our spirits. Bright hope pulsed with gentle colors. The light shapers were teachers and healers. We shared knowledge and beauty across the galaxy. The hegemony made us into weapons and told us it was for the greater good." War Commander Thexval's voice came over the communication system, but he sounded nothing like the cold military leader who had threatened them hours earlier. I am beginning to remember what my people were like before we became soldiers. We built cities that sang with the wind. We created art from metal and stone. When did we decide that war was more important than beauty? Morrison saw his opportunity. You don't have to choose between order and chaos. You don't have to choose between security and freedom. You can have both. But it requires something the hegemony has never allowed: cooperation instead of domination. Dr. Walsh had been analyzing the political and social structures of the hegemony during the battle. Captain, I've been studying their historical records. The hegemony wasn't always like this. It started as a defensive alliance between three species facing a common threat. But over time, the need for military efficiency overwhelmed everything. Else? Morrison nodded. Then we need to show them a different way. Amy, open a channel to Earth. It's time to call in reinforcements. Turner worked at her console for several minutes before establishing the connection. Admiral Sarah Hayes appeared. On the main screen, her expression showing both relief and concern. Captain Morrison, we received your coded message. The entire fleet is mobilizing, but we're still weeks away. What's your status? Morrison gestured to the tactical display showing the transformed alien fleet. Admiral, I'd like you to meet our new allies. The rebellion against the hegemony has begun. Hayes looked stunned as Morrison explained what had happened. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Captain, you've just changed the course of galactic history. But what you're proposing, a democratic federation spanning multiple species, has never been attempted on this scale. Commander Zara's image appeared alongside Morrison's on the Earth transmission. Admiral Hayes, we understand the challenges, but we also understand the alternative. The hegemony has brought 10,000 years of stagnation to this galaxy. It's time for something new. Over the next several hours, the various ship commanders worked together to establish the framework for what would become known as the Galactic Federation. Unlike the hegemony's rigid hierarchy, the Federation would be based on voluntary cooperation and equal representation. Each species would maintain their own culture and government while contributing to shared goals like exploration, defense, and scientific advancement. Decisions would be made through debate and consensus rather than military command. But the work was interrupted by urgent messages from throughout hegemony space. The news of the rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Captain? Turner reported, I'm receiving communications from 12 different star systems. Hegemony subject species are rising up across the galaxy. The crystalline chorus in the Vega system has declared independence. The tree singers of Rigel have expelled their hegemony overseers. The cloud dancers near Alpha Centauri are requesting Federation membership. Morrison realized that their small battle had become the spark for a galactic revolution. But with opportunity came danger. What about the core hegemony worlds? Morrison asked. Admiral Reef Singer provided the answer. They're mobilizing everything they have. Our sources indicate that they're assembling the largest military force in galactic history. They know that if this rebellion succeeds, their entire civilization will collapse. War Commander Thexval, who had been quiet during most of the planning, finally spoke up. Captain Morrison, I must warn you. The hegemony core worlds have weapons that make this fleet look like toys. If they decide that the rebellion threatens their existence, they will not hesitate to destroy entire star systems to stop it. Morrison felt the familiar weight of impossible odds. But now he wasn't facing them alone. Then we need to move fast. How many systems can we liberate before they can organize a response? Commander Zara had been consulting with her ship's navigation systems. If we split our forces and coordinate with the local rebellions, we might be able to free a dozen systems in the next few weeks. But it will require perfect timing and cooperation. Dr. Walsh had been thinking about the bigger picture. Captain, we need to do more than just win battles. We need to show the galaxy that the Federation offers something better than what they're fighting against. Morrison nodded. What do you suggest? Instead of conquering hegemony worlds, we invite them to join us. Instead of destroying their ships, we show their crews what they've been missing: The empathy bombs proved that even the most indoctrinated beings can be reached. Admiral Hayes had been listening to the entire conversation from Earth. Captain Morrison, I'm authorizing you to negotiate formal treaties with any species that wants to join the Federation. You have the full backing of Earth's government. Over the following days, the small fleet that had begun as an execution squad transformed into the nucleus of a new galactic civilization. Ships that had been enemies became the foundation of a combined fleet that could defend newly liberated worlds. The Liberty itself underwent a transformation. Working with alien engineers, Lisa Martinez integrated Federation technologies into the ship's systems: Zephyrian shields, Tide Runner gravity manipulation, Light Shaper quantum drives, and human. Adaptive technology created a vessel unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, but the real transformation happened among the crews. Humans worked alongside former hegemony soldiers who were learning to think for themselves. Cultural exchange programs began immediately, with humans teaching art and music, while aliens shared scientific knowledge and philosophical insights. 3 weeks after the original battle, the Federation fleet had grown to over 200 ships. They had liberated 15 star systems and established the first Federation Parliament.